Good morning, comic book fans. Not welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. I am still your ever no shorty. What's happening today is the start of my best of 2025 countdown. Comes in two parts. The second part will be the rest of this after today, which will be me counting down what I think is, off the top of my head, my top 12 best comic books of the year. They won't be every day because I have weekends off, but there will be one a day when I do them, and I might sneak in a review between now and then. It has been slightly slim pickings this year for ones that have absolutely blown my mind, but there's still a lot of good comic books out there. Today, though, we do these stuff that didn't quite make it for one reason or another. These are comic books I have personally enjoyed, but I have little rules for what I think can be a best comic book of the year. Usually it's single issues coming out, started in this year, or sometimes the very end of last year. It can be a miniseries, it can be an ongoing, and ideally self-contained. Now, that's not the only reason why some won't make it on. I will say all these are in no particular order. They all have their own reasons, but they're not listed in terms of the one that came closest or anything like that. We're going to start with Free Planets, an Image comic book, and one that I really liked when I first read it, and I have found myself reading every single issue and thoroughly enjoying it. Like a couple of books this year, it feels like one that is kind of aimed more at me than general populace, which is one of the reasons why I didn't quite make the list. The other one, though, is the fact that I really enjoyed the world. I really enjoyed the story. I love what it was doing in terms of talking about how an anarchist uprising can turn to actual society that functions rather than one that would just be completely rolled over by fascist and corporate ideologies. But in the grand scheme of things, there's an awful lot of characters, and I don't think in the first few issues enough time was spent on any one of them to really get a sense that they were the ones driving the story. It felt a bit educational, which is not a bad thing, but I'm character first through and through, and I think just a little bit more of that could have put this into the top running. Exquisite Corpses next, another Image comic book, and one that, again, I have been really enjoying. It's on my pull list. I've read every issue of it. I look forward to it when it gets here, and it does a lot. It is a very cool critique of capital, of inherited wealth and power. It's also fantastic in terms of brutal slasher-esque stories going on. There's some brilliant characters going on throughout at multiple levels of the way the story's taking place on the ground, the killers, the people pulling the strings, the people behind the people pulling the strings. But like a couple of things I've reviewed this year, it also is doing a little bit too much. Not that I usually would use that as a criticism, but it feels a bit too busy, and if it concentrated on doing like a few things really well, which I know it can do because I'm enjoying it, I think I'd have got a little bit more from it. Next up, we've got Dark Regards, an Onion Press book, and I really like what Onion Press are doing at the moment. And this is another one that feels like it is aimed a little bit more at me, or at least people like me. And when I say like me, I don't even just mean people who like heavy metal, or just people who like extreme black metal. I mean people who are fully aware of the absurdity of it and can find it enjoyable to laugh about it. If you're the kind of person who owns like shelves worth of heavy metal music and has a penchant for Scandinavian black metal or any kind of black metal, including like Wayfarer and Zealanada, but you also find it exceptionally funny in that particular scene in Metal Headbanger's Journey where the dude asks Garl a question and he spends far too long before answering Satan. If you can't help but laugh at that, this comic book is for you. It is exceptionally funny. It never punches down. It just understands that it is kind of heavy metal, black metal in particular, is kind of absurd, and goes with that. It's written from a point of love, and I have nothing bad to say about it other than the fact that if you're not really into the music, you might not get as much as I do. Next, we've got News from the Fallout. Yet another Image Comics. This one did an awful lot of stuff I really liked. Fantastic characterization, really nice, tight storytelling, visually stunning. Genuinely struggled to like not put this a little bit higher, but in the end, unfortunately, the choices made for the way this comic book looks did let it down on a couple of occasions. Basically, it looks like still images taken from a silhouette play, and sometimes these figures are quite far away, and sometimes it means in the middle of hectic moments, I find myself having to double back and make sure it's who I think it is who's saying the thing, and that kind of takes you out of the narrative flow just a little bit. I like the art, I do, but sometimes it kind of got in its own way. Next up, different company entirely. It's Boom Studios, and I really like Boom. They've done a lot of cool stuff over the years, but this year, not been much that I can really talk about other than Hello Darkness, which is my favourite of the anthologies, particularly the horror anthologies. It's not a portmanteau like Creepshow or the EC horror stuff, but it is brilliant. The thing is, it's an anthology, it's got a lot of different creators in there, and they very rarely have ongoing kind of stuff, so it feels like I couldn't put it on the list at all. What I could put on was Garth Ennis and Becky Cloonan's The War, which is a really good series they did, and it got released in single issues. Didn't quite make it on because the single issues are a reprint of something in an anthology, but honestly, well worth checking out. Ennis is one of my favourite writers. I got to meet him this year and it was absolutely amazing, and I only made a fool of myself like 30 seconds top. And the comic is really, really good. It's him on top form, writing about something very, very current, and using genre fiction as a way to show how terrible things actually are in the real world. Very, very good writing, very good artwork. Highly recommend it. Grab the trade when it's out. It might already be out. And next, finally, we've gone from DC Comics, and this is one that I'm absolutely heartbroken that I couldn't put on my main list, because when I read the first issue, I absolutely loved it. Fantastic storytelling, fantastic characterization, brilliant art, brilliant form, but DC are pussies, and they fired Gretchen Felker Martin for weirdly being happy that Charlie Kirk died. Everyone should have been happy that Charlie Kirk died. The guy was a piece of shit. Explicitly a piece of shit towards people like Gretchen Felker Martin, and she was absolutely right to be happy that he's dead, because he spent a significant portion of his career wishing her and people like her active harm. In fact, calling for active harm to be done against the community. DC can basically do one for this. There's a lot of other good stuff they've done this year, but I'm going to mainly be talking about the actual individual creators rather than the publishing house, because honestly, very much annoyed me. It still is a fantastic comic book. If you're lucky enough to got one, well done. I would say if you can find one without paying a fortune, it's nice just to have it as this little artifact of the time it came out. Other than that, go and support Gretchen Felker Martin. I've read both of her books. Manhunt and Cuckoo are both fantastic. There's another one that's out at the moment I've not got around to yet, but I'm really looking forward to it. Genuinely go and check out her stuff. She's amazing. And if the level of quality from that first issue to carried on, not only would this one be in my best of the year, it probably would have been fairly high up in it, but it was only a single issue. It wasn't an ongoing, but it absolutely deserves some praise, and so does she. That's it for me for now. Tomorrow, I will actually start with my best of. When I start this, just be aware, there's not really much difference between any of the top 12 books that I've selected. It is a matter of like very, very slight gradations to why one is better than the other. Just take my word for it that if you like my reviews and if you enjoy the kind of things I seem to enjoy, you will like any one on the top 12 that's coming. That's for me for now though. Until I see you all again, look after yourself everyone, stay safe.